All right. So tonight we are hosting Business Warriors President um, Jonathan Brooks, and Jonathan is going to be hosting a workshop for us this evening to talk about customer acquisition. And also, as a bonus, his company has gone public, and he can also share and give you some insights about how that went and the lessons learned and all those good insights from doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and give Jonathan a round of applause. Yeah. All right. So, Jonathan, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. And I will let tell us a little bit about yourself and then get started with the workshop.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you everyone who is joining and for the recording. It's an all new way that we interact with each other. So it's awesome. It allows us to, have a bigger impact to more folks. So again, my name is Jonathan. I'm the president of Business Warrior. I've been with Business Warrior since about 2016. Before then, I did the corporate circuit. I worked for a telecom called Cox Communications. And I did everything from marketing to business acquisition to new product development, and near the later term, was tempted to move to Atlanta, where the corporate headquarters are. I chose the entrepreneurial path though, and I'm so really very glad that I did, because ended up connecting with my current business partner, Rhett Doolittle, who's the founder and our CEO. And, we both have a big passion for small business owners. They fuel the local economies in the United States. And, they're also the ones that get left behind first. So that's really our mission at Business Warriors. We fight for the small business owner. And we want to bring, what I'm going to talk you guys through today is really just almost the baseline truth of what it really takes to get customers as a small business owner, and particularly the shifts that have happened since the pandemic. The way that you used to attract and get customers really doesn't apply as steadily or as conveniently as it does now. And so now you got to figure out how to use technology. And that's where Business Warrior is going to come into play. Even more importantly, is that, it doesn't matter how tech savvy you are today, technology is here to stay. And what the pandemic taught us is that those that are going to be more successful in the future are going to leverage technology to make better decisions, not necessarily be fearful for it. So I know obviously I'm talking to Startup Grind, which is, tech savvy friendly, but a lot of businesses out there are resistant to tech still. So I'll chat a little bit more about that in terms of our solution and things like that. So next, first slide, I guess. Thank you. So yeah. The company itself, we've gone through a couple little small pivots. We were founded in 2014, actually as a small business marketing agency. So we really have been able to take what was a human services need, being a marketing agency, and we took a step back and said, hey, how can we solve this problem, but on a more scalable event? And that's where we took all of the lessons learned from working with thousands of small businesses, and we transformed it into a software known as Business Warrior. We launched that software officially in August of 2019, and now I can gratefully say that we have over 5,000 subscribers across the US. So what does the software do? We analyze performance of each of the local businesses, and then we guide them on how to get more customers through either a do-it-yourself kind of online course or courses, or you can hire our professional team at a really good price, and we'll actually do the work for you. Again, I'll share more about that for where we're later on in the presentation. Our target really is small businesses. I think that's one of the things that I'll even be more specific. Our target and who we do really well in is small business owners that are service area businesses, such as pest control companies, AC companies, those that have actually done really well in the pandemic and are needing more of our services now. But it's those businesses that were lucky enough to get a few customers, and they realize that they need to identify the gaps in their business and now accelerate in marketing. So service area businesses are doing that a lot right now because the pandemic forced them to. We also do really well with retail environments, brick and mortar, smaller shops, boutique shops. And then thirdly, we're restaurants. Restaurants are super highly competitive. And so I put them third in our target market. Literally because as an entrepreneur, you got to really learn how to say no more than you do yes. And it's not that we say no to our restaurant customers, but it is definitely a different conversation for where are they at, what are they willing to spend, and how do we really get them there. So the benefit that Jessica talked about at the end in terms of fireside chat, we were fortunate enough also to go public. We went public right at the beginning of 2020, right when the pandemic hit and started. And so I'll share more at the end of this conversation around, what it took, why we took that path, and now where we're at as a public company. Jessica, you mind going to the next slide? So at the core Business Warrior, we help businesses simplify and prioritize daily marketing decisions to get more customers. I'm going to go through, a little bit more in depth in the software. And I encourage all of you, when we go through this, that at a free account level, you are actually able to, get your free account, and you can run your own startup, your own business through it. You can actually see your own diagnostics for it. But at the end of the day, we simplify and prioritize the daily marketing. That is such a critical part, because if you think about all the decisions that a small business owner is making, the marketing is always kind of at the end of the day, or when they're really tired, or they kind of throw spaghetti against the wall. Well, that lack of consistency is not what's going to actually get you more customers. And so, Jessica, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So what we see in the market actually happens more is, small business owners are trying to fiddle their way through it. And so they end up, trying this piece of software, trying that piece of software. And what's the result, right? They're low engagement. It's confusing and complicated. I know, particularly maybe this group is a little bit more tech savvy and understands Google Analytics, understands Facebook Ad Manager. Majority of business owners don't. Sometimes those tools are too specialized. So the business owner, tries a piece of technology, and then it's, too specific to their needs and doesn't address it. So there's these 5 big gaps that's happening for what's currently in the market and why Business Warrior is being different. Next slide. So how do we get merchants or small businesses more customers? So the platform gives the business owner the intelligence to get more customers. Now, how do we do that? So first and foremost, we identify the merchant's performance, a brand reputation, and customer sentiment. So we say, look, there are 4 main factors for how a business goes and get customers. Number 1, it's going to be, are you found online, right? There's always that credibility proof of, if I Google you, do you show up? Number 2 is your reputation. If I Google you, do you have a good reputation? Number 3 is, now I Googled you, you have a good reputation, and now I want to go find you. Now I want to go and look at your website. If you pull up the website, is it mobile friendly? Is it fast? Is it moving? And then 4th, as the business, are you actually correctly targeting them on the back end? Are you doing remarketing, right? So again, it's, are you being found? How's your reputation? How fast is your website if I go and engage with you on it? And then you as the business owner, are you tracking me? Are you making sure that you're capturing me as a lead and not just having me disappear in the ether? And so once we identify the performance and the brand based off those 4 metrics, we then give meaningful actions to improve. And this is a big difference and a big part of, there's major competitor of ours like Reputation.com or Birdseye, right? They do well at certain components of what small business owners need. But at the end of the day, if you're not identifying where you're at and where you need to get to, you're just going to be on a hamster wheel and running that same race. And so what we do is, once we identify your problems, we actually give you action plans on how to go solve them. Those action plans are very much like mini courses. So if you want to learn how to launch a Facebook ad, you follow the 7 steps, and we actually get you engaged on taking like a little mini course. You complete each step, and now you're ready to launch a Facebook ad. And so we have those action plans, and they're very much like curriculum. We continue to build out. Again, I'll talk about our strategy and how we get there and things like that, but these are some of the core basics for the software. And the last 2 parts, stay informed with real-time alerts from reviews. And then last but not least, we have a really good marketing engagement follow-up plan, where we're making sure that the end users are using the software, understanding their activity, understanding what they could be missing by not doing more. And so we really have that full 360 engagement. Get them into the software, have them using it, and then supplement it with really strong email marketing. Next slide, Jess. So how are we solving that problem? So first and foremost, and again, I'd encourage you, you can sign up for your free account, go to businesswarrior.com, enter your business. You'll be able to see exactly the walkthrough on this one. But it all starts with, we identify the business location data. really cool thing is you can get a brand new free account in less than 60 seconds. And what that does, again, it's going to pull your marketing, it's going to pull your reputation, your listings, your web. And those are the 4 big reasons of like why somebody chooses you these days. So then we show them their marketing results, and then we give them the actions to be taken by the business. So yes, there's a lot of algorithm and technology running in the background, but at the end of the day, it's simplified to we evaluate your business location at a specific location. We give you an analysis on the marketing results, and then we give you actions to go and take, and then the whole cycle keeps turning. The more actions you take, the more improvement you have, the more likelihood you're going to get more customers. Next slide. So that kind of turn cycle that I was talking about is our proprietary algorithm that we built. And so the fact is that we take a really strong stance on this. Majority of small businesses actually are not ready to spend a single dime on Google or Facebook. Everybody wants to rush to go and get those customers. And trust me, we've been there too in terms of our stage of a business. But if you really think and kind of take a step back, we look at all businesses and a business owner themselves, a lot of them are at different stages of, are they ready to get customers? They're at different stages of a business. That stage could be, hey, they're just starting out, and you see some characteristics like, you're kind of, you're leveraging friends and family for revenue, right? You're kind of lucky if you get new customers. You maybe are on Google, you probably have a website, but you're not really cohesive, right? So that's kind of stage 1, the way we think about it. That's how our algorithm looks at that business. And then we correlate it to a score. Stage 2 and stage 3, stage 2, you start to get to a different path where now all of a sudden you're not just using friends and family, you're not lucky to get customers. You're starting to get customers actually through advertising, through social media, through events, but they're not just coming and leaving. They're coming and you're actually starting to understand their customer life cycle. And then stage 3 is, even where Business Warrior is at. We now have a system in place between our technology and our CRM to be able to say, look, we know what our customer acquisition is. We know how to go and optimize that. We know what our customer lifetime value is, and you can actually build a company around those metrics. And so it all starts, though, with the simple algorithm that we've built, which is identifying your scoring, kind of the stage of where you're at as a business. Next slide. So again, this is not all a pitch for Business Warrior. This is much more around education, around acquisition. And so, we do have, 3 options. The diagnostics score, we always have that free plan, right? So you can log in and you can at minimum understand how you're doing with listings, how you're doing with marketing, how you're doing with your website, and how you're doing with reputation all the time. That gets updated once a month. You want to be a little bit more hands-on. You want to figure it out and do it yourself and actually take those action plans that we recommend as part of our DIY software called Scout. And then if you need help and if you have the budget, use our pro services team. Again, we've worked with thousands of businesses across the United States. Our pro group knows how to do it. We'll actually build marketing and video ads for you, launch those campaigns, manage them, and analyze them for you. So, we've taken a step back and said, hey, look, we can provide these 3 plans, and we're seeing some good success with it. If you want to go to the last slide, this is the team. And then, I'll talk more about the state of customer acquisition. Again, my partner in crime, Rhett, Cody's our director of product, really in charge of user experience support. And then our CTO, Jeremy, based in Silicon Valley. A lot of experience, a lot of love towards Jeremy. He's got, over 20 years of tech and really is a guide for us. So that's the team. That's the software. I'm going to pause real quick. Jessica, did you want to ask any specific questions or do you want me to shift a little bit into that customer acquisition conversation?
Yeah, so specific question. So what are some things that are pretty low level for a startup saying that, they really don't have a budget quite yet, but they need to at least get started on something, or even a small business? They have a website, but everything's kind of in different silos. What is a recommendation that you can give? Say, okay, bare minimum, you need to do this.
Yeah, so bare minimum is number 1, make sure your business is found across the 4 big search platforms: Google, Facebook, Yelp, and Bing. Those 4 still, even though, Bing, right? No, those still 4 make up over 97% of search traffic, right? And so make sure you're found on listings. Because if you think about, and this goes a little into the customer acquisition journey, right? But if you think about how customers find you now, they don't stumble upon you because, quite honestly, we've been locked up in our homes. They search for you first. And so it's really important that you understand you got to be found on those big four. So I would say step number one, make sure your business is found as a business on those big four. Step number two is take advantage of the free business advertising tools. And so, Business Warrior, we do this, we've written blogs about this, but there are low-hanging fruit, like putting offers on Google My Business is a multi-pronged approach, right? You can not only introduce your business, but then if you're putting offers, there's a tab actually in Google My Business when you go in there, you put offers on there. Google likes when you use Google services. So you actually do get an increase in a bump in your page ranking by leveraging the Google My Business platform. So put an offer out there, even if it's kind of a freebie of some form, right? Make sure you have rotating images. Treat Google My Business like a social media platform. You got to be pushing content out there. You got to be making sure that you're putting videos, promos, like use it. And then the last part of Google My Business is, update the expectations of your customers for what they can expect post-COVID. I think I said expect 3 times, but expectations are super key, and you got to communicate them out. And so use Google My Business's services section to keep your customers informed on what to expect. We're seeing some really interesting trends happening, and again, we're collecting data on thousands of businesses, every single day. And so, what's really interesting is that number one, service area businesses are bolstering at the belt of being busy. Whether it's pool companies or construction companies, labor supplies are tight. Everyone's running into this. And what we're seeing is that those service area businesses, you could kind of you could pass by not sending an email or not having technology to update your customers. That world doesn't work anymore. If you're so backlogged and 6 weeks out, you got to get ahead of that and make sure that you're doing some basics of advertising and marketing to make sure that your customers are staying satisfied, because everyone's shopping now. And so, that's a perfect example of somebody who can use a free business advertising tool like Google My Business to keep their customers updated. So then I think beyond the Google My Business, then in terms of other free business advertising, it gets to the basics of social media, which this isn't around being an influencer or trying to get to 10,000 followers as a business. Treating your business's social media page is similar enough anymore to how you got to represent your own personal brand. And I think that is a common mistake that I'm seeing right now with a lot of startups, is that either they've over personalized it and they've made the brand and they've made their company all about an individual. Well, if that individual on their personal Instagram is out on a boat or drinking or something like that, then that becomes almost too close, right? So there's got to be a fine balance of having the owner and the leader of the company be on social media for the company, but then also make sure, like, look, social media is here to stay, and you got to balance that out, right? So professional plus personal really is the key to that. So I'd say those 3 things: be found, leverage free business advertising tools, make sure you're representing yourself well on social.
Yeah, those are definitely good ones. I do agree with you. I do see startups, especially in that blend of where's the line between a professional business and a startup life.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to make that change into a growth, you then look back and go, oh, that was not such a great idea. So yeah, I understand totally what you're talking about. Okay, so let's go more into this customer acquisition. Let's talk a little bit more about that and how do you do it differently, and some tips that you can give people who are listening in.
Yeah. So the great timing of this conversation is back to that stages analogy, right?
Actually, do you want me to change this slide to something else before?
Yeah, you can just go to the thank you. You can just go to thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's go to thank you. So the stages analogy. So I don't have a visual for it yet. We're actually still working on it because what we really want to do is we want to make sure that every business, including startups, that there is an expectation of, I'm going to start a business, and you get out there and you're like, cool, I'm going to go get customers. And reality is like, it's not just a flip of a switch of going to get customers. And I think that, demystifying that it's okay to be at a stage 1 when you're first starting up and what that really means. Again, it's going to mean that you got to lean in more on friends and family, and you're going to get a little lucky with some customers. But don't get discouraged because startups start at stage one. It's why it's stage one. But how you get from stage one to stage two is going to be through technology and then through customer acquisition testing. So we are a huge fan of A/B testing. You should be A/B testing, not everything, because if you test everything, then nothing matters, right? But you got to have a clear strategy of what do you want to test and then where do you test it. So having a flexible website that allows A/B testing so you can test different headlines, different call to actions is really critical. We use landing pages as our primary marketing funnel. So Business Warrior ourselves, in terms of attracting new businesses, we use landing pages as our primary funnel. And we're A/B testing that, crazily. So you can't, the thing is, and I'm warning, folks, because you can get analysis paralysis if you're A/B testing so much. So it takes a step back to say, like, okay, how do we A/B test in the right way? Which is the KISS model, keep it simple, stupid to a degree. And so I think the next evolution for all of us as either in a startup mode or moving into a stage two where you're starting to use technology for your benefit and understanding customer acquisition, it is really starting to leverage technology more. CRMs are a great way to do this, but I would caution, if you're in stage one, don't spend the money on CRMs. You're probably not there yet, right? And so capital is a really key thing when you're in the startup mind. And I say this time and time again, I think a lot of startups, a lot of small businesses are so undercapitalized. And that's kind of a no-duck comment, but they're undercapitalized because the founder or the owner did not effectively plan how much technology is actually going to cost them. And so technology is a tool when you're moving from the scrappy stage, that stage one to stage two. You got to really be really specific with technology, right? I'm a big fan of HubSpot. That's not a plug or anything like that, but but you can't. It's $8,000 a quarter, right? I mean, that's a potential heavy expense for a startup. We're fortunate to where we're driving it, but we're able to look at a lot of the analytics around it. The thing is the minute you get HubSpot right around the corner, you're like, man, I need somebody to manage HubSpot for me. Oh no, now I need. So there's technology and then there's OpEx. And by the way, all of this happens before you acquire a single customer. And I think that's the conversation piece that, at least at Business Warrior, we're bringing forward more. It's why our software is identifying the problem and bringing actions at the core versus trying to say, hey, now you need a CRM, now you need MailChimp, now you need to do this, right? It is really saying, like, get really good at the basics first, get yourself into a place where you're getting customers beyond friends and family and luck, and then you can start incorporating technology to be smarter around how you go acquire people. And too many folks rush to stage two when they should nail stage one.
Yeah, if you don't manage those CRMs, especially at the beginning, you can have data in there that is no longer relevant. It's just dirty. You're paying for people who were never going to buy from you, and you really have to manage it. And that then takes you out of managing your business, because then you're just managing the CRM, and it can be a drain. Yeah, $8,000 a quarter. I've seen companies like 10 grand, plus. It can get really, really expensive. But it's also a very powerful tool, having those insights of, like, how long people have been on your website, which landing page they went on, and their customer journey. Did they go from a social media page? Like, all of this information HubSpot can give you is fabulous. But there's also a price to pay for that kind of stuff. Unless you have the capital to do that, it may not be the right choice quite yet.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the problems that we've shared this publicly too, but the small business or startup, finding the right capital to fit your business, I think is one of the biggest problems facing everybody right now. And I take a look at the environment and I'm like, well, yeah, of course, startups are always trying to find money. The difference is that, taking this back to customer acquisition, you really do have to have an engine in place before you're going to go acquire customers, because acquiring customers now is on the digital landscape, where before you put up a brick and mortar, you're in a high traffic area, you throw some ads out, and you're probably going to make it buy, right? That doesn't exist anymore. People are too spread out, too diverse. There's too many options. And so, now you have to say, well, how do I meet the customer where they are at? They're online. And in order to get to that point as a business, you got to be tech focused. And that's where, you got to do, again, stage 1, kind of stage 2. And then like the stage 3 companies, I would put Business Warrior in a stage 3 company where we're leveraging CRM, we're leveraging, multiple layers of the advertising funnel. So top of the funnel in terms of giving somebody an education. Middle of the funnel, you start to give them the value prop of the product. Bottom of the funnel, you're starting to get them in conversion, right? But it's taken us, almost 12 to 18 months to refine that, and we're still refining it. And we have a team of almost 15 different marketers when you include our agency who are focused on that. And right now, I kind of see us at the point of equilibrium where it's working. Being a small business owner or like a restaurant owner, like somebody who's trying to like bring in a big new idea, I think that don't underestimate. My message is do not underestimate how much knowledge and understanding and technical aptitude you need to have for your company baseline before trying to go and advertise. Don't waste money. Don't waste dollars on Facebook and Google. You may luck out for a few times, but it's not going to be consistent. And at the end of the day, you're going to look back 12 months and you're going to be like, what did I spend this money on? And that happens way too much.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at, customer acquisition and now, take it a step further and just looking at Coca in general, trying to measure your cost. A lot of companies that I speak to, especially startups, they have no idea how to even measure their Coca. And technology can actually help you with that. So how does Business Warrior, or from your experience, how do you guys measure your cost of customer acquisition?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I think it's one that could almost be a full course, but at the end of the day, again, I'm, the KISS model, keep it simple, stupid, right? You got to look at, how much are you advertising? How much are you spending on ads? How many of your ads are getting you leads? How many of your leads are converting? And then at that point in time, you're at least able to understand your cost per acquisition. But then right around the corner, you got to understand what that lifetime value is in that customer. Because you might be spending $200 to get a cost per acquisition, but your revenue is $50 off of it, right? So they got to stay 4 months, but they're only staying 3 months. So you may feel like you're winning because you're bringing them in the door for $200, but you're actually still losing $50 a customer because they're leaving on month 3. So I think it's like connecting those dots, which again, CRMs are a great way to help you on that. But you got to have that mindset of you're tracking the full funnel and the full experience. If you want to go true, cost per acquisition, of course you got to add in your advertising, your advertising services, right? So you look at that holistically to say what you're going to bring on. There's design costs. There's the actual creation of the ads. If you're paying a marketing agency, that's probably not like the nicest streamline, but most startups that we try to do it ourselves, right? So we'll go to Canva, we'll go to, we'll spend all this time researching Facebook ads. And we're going to try to go do it ourselves. You got to pull that time together, including, by the way, one thing I would say is if you're a startup doing it yourself, you got to count your own time and labor towards that model.
Yeah, totally agree.
Too many startups are like, oh no, my cost per acquisition is just my advertising. No, man, like you're the one who's
your time.
It's your time.
Yeah, exactly. Because that opportunity cost for you to do business development or something else, and you have to take that into consideration for sure. All right, so tell me, let's go into how you guys actually decided to go public. It was right before the pandemic. Obviously, a lot of work has to be done before that. So when did that conversation even come about? Decide to do that than what traditionally startups would do. Why go this route?
Yeah, so we did what a lot of startups do, which is we proved the model out. We got a little bit of capital. Again, it was expensive, and you make all the wrong decisions in the beginning. But then once we started proving the model out and socializing our ideas, we started with PE and VCs. And I think that the thing that I'm very, very glad that we decided the path that we did, because we did not want to give up control or too much of the company. It is my blood, sweat, and tears. It's, Jeremy's, Rhett's, Cody's blood. It's our blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, we've sacrificed so much, and we found a lot of people were trying to get 60, 70% of the company. And so we ended up finding the vehicle being the public route. We did a reverse merger through there, and we were able to, really go and raise capital at a very friendly rate. And so the reverse merger is, luckily we had a good legal team, and we had some good people that have done this before. We were able to lean on them for, understanding. But, it took a lot of lessons learned in the first, 3 months of what this really, what it really means to be public. And I'm still learning those lessons every single day. But, again, we were able to go and raise really friendly capital. We're able to, go out to friends and family and, be able to exchange stock for cash. We were able to use that cash to grow. And those friends and family are the ones who are going to be your biggest fans. So they're not going to turn around and sell it. And so, again, the vehicle of being public has its own administrative costs, and it is definitely something that needs to be really considered. As a company, we're a little bit more mature, and we've had our hard knocks early, and we've all done stupid things, right? But the fact is that both Rhett and I, we are focused as a thought process on what it means to be a public company. So we get ahead of the administrative things like quarterly financials and SEC and filings. Like we treat our company with so much respect and responsibility, because now we've grown to, over 30 people, right? We have 13 full-time with Business Warrior, the rest are contractors. But that's a personal responsibility that I put on my shoulders every single morning. Is I'm not working just for myself. I'm working for, putting food on the table for now our whole team. And now, by the way, also for the business owners that are subscribers that are trusting us with their success. So, we don't take the use of capital lightly.
Yeah. So what some lessons learned from going through that process? Would you do it again, or how would you approach it differently?
I would do it again. Hindsight's always 20/20. So I would do it again. I would look at. So it's a catch-22. I wouldn't change anything the way that we did it. But
because you learned a lot.
I learned a lot, and I think the biggest lessons are, being a public company means that you got to really stay to the pulse of the stock and the stock price. And so, you got to be prepared as part of your job to be, always, talking about making sure that the stock's, in a good direction. You can't just say, like a private company, if you take $5 million, sure, you're going to have, performance metrics and performance goals, but, you get a little bit of breathing room. Being a public company, there's no breathing room. You got to really hit the pedal to the metal every single day. And so I think that's definitely a big learning. It could be a job on its own to make sure that the stock is, moving the right way. I'd say the second part of it is make sure that you select, and I think we did, but make sure that you select a good vehicle if you do the reverse merger route. Right, there's a lot of shady, kind of bad companies out there that are, quote unquote, maybe shell companies, or, they have a bad history. Do your due diligence on the type of company that you would do a reverse merger with. And I would always say, be careful of who you trust to help you select the vehicle. The Wall Street is wonderful for capital, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of sharks there too. So
yeah,
you got to be careful with it.
Definitely. All right. So tell me something that is in your guys' future. What are you looking for towards, now looking at Q4 2021 and maybe Q1 of 2022?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. One is, we're constantly improving how we make sure our subscribers are more successful. And so to me, I look at that and what are the next problems that business owners are facing. One is all the things that we just talked about, customer acquisition. You can do it in a simple way to where you can still launch Facebook ads and Google ads without having to have all the complexities of cost per acquisition. But there's not really a platform out there that solves that problem simply. So I think, one of the more interesting things that we're looking into right now is, how do we make marketing your small business an easier, simple way. Also being consistent with our vision of problem identification, action plan, review the results, and then, improve and get better. We would take that same simplicity and application into that marketing view. So I think that's an interesting part that we're exploring right now. I think the other part is the capital problem. We were fortunate with being able to identify a lot of opportunity with the Paycheck Protection Program. We had a really good partner who was able to help make sure that we were able to participate in this. We got some early wins in terms of some revenues from it, but I think that solving the capital problem for a small business owner is something that is going to be critical moving forward. Not only for us, but in general. It's I don't want to get on a soapbox, but it's really challenging to make sure that the business owner is borrowing the right amount of money from the right person.
Right.
And so if we can, again, apply our vision and our core values to that, I think we solve a big problem.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
So, anything else you would like to add? Any advice from your journey in working from corporate world and transitioning to a startup world? What is your advice to somebody who may be thinking about doing the same?
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, I used to say it's all about grit, but I think a lot of people have grit, right? You got to grind through it. I would actually say that it's more around check your mental health. It really is. I would say, anybody who's thinking from going from a day job to an entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurship is such an intense adrenaline daily thing that you find yourself and your mental health is whether you take it out on alcohol, or you take it out on over exercising, or you take it out on relationships. Like, having a really clear self-awareness is my biggest thing. Too many of us get burnt out, and then sure, you can grind through it, but it's not going to be a happy journey, and you're going to burn a lot of relationships when you do it. And so I'd say it's more around self-awareness and mental health right now. That study that I commented on, 44% of workers are burnt out. Yeah. It's because we've all tried to, quote unquote, grind through, and you need to have your boundaries. You need to understand what's going on within internally to be a better boss, better employee, better friend, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on point. Startups and founders and really small business owners in general, there's so much pressure to always do the next best thing, even though you don't know what the next best thing is. And it's constant go, 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 because if you're fearful, if you stop or you pause, something might drop. And so taking that account of your mental health and your physical health as well, and how they correlate together, really impacts you. Sometimes the best thing you can do is really unplug and go take a break and take a vacation, because you'll come back better than if you were to keep on grinding and going through it, because you get to a point where you're no longer productive, and your relationships or yourself will suffer through that. Yeah. It is called a grind, but you don't really have to grind to that point. So yeah, for sure.
Grinding to the bone. I'm sure we all do it, but grinding to the bone. I mean, there's trade-offs and ramifications, right? So, I'm a big believer of I want to enjoy the journey, and I want to enjoy the people around me in the journey, and you gotta be mentally healthy and prepared to do it. So
yeah, definitely.
That's my biggest lesson.
All right. So what kind of vacation are you going on next? Where are you going?
No, we're in the grind stage again.
So no more vacations right now.
No, I was fortunate to do a vacation with my wife, but no, I've been invigorated back. So I think there are really bright days ahead for Business Warrior. I think there are really bright days ahead for how we're going to solve the small business problem. And I can't wait for. Honestly, I can't wait for somebody on the startup grind to be sitting in my position a year from now, maybe after watching this or listening to this, and being like, "Oh, I think I understand what he was saying now." So, I want more entrepreneurs to be more successful. So, it's a hard enough life.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. I will,
Yeah.
I know you're busy and you're an hour ahead of us, so it's definitely past dinner. So thank you again for joining us this evening. And we look forward to seeing the success of Business Warrior and keeping in touch.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Talk
All
to you
right,
soon.
have a good one.
All right.